Friends of Formula One, Toto Wolff just made a stunning admission that nobody saw coming, and his words completely change how we read this championship finale. The team principal openly stated that Mercedes doesn't have the money to bring developments to the car, that they're up against the budget cap wall, and that the next major update package won't arrive until Malaysia in October. You heard that right. This means there will be a gap of 10 full Grands Prix between Mercedes' first and second major upgrade packages, which is an enormous stretch in a season where development decides everything. But the most interesting part is something else entirely, because Andrea Stella practically contradicted Wolff, bringing up a regulatory detail that almost nobody knows about, a $3 million exemption granted by the Federation. Then there's Ferrari, who left a lot of points on the table at Zandvoort, with some remarkable lap time data on Leclerc that tells the whole story. And finally, the numbers on the Aduo 2 power unit arriving at Monza, with a modification that could save Ferrari on a circuit that's been something of a nightmare until now. Let me walk you through all of it. If you don't want to miss any updates on Ferrari and Formula One, drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date. Alright, let's get straight into the analysis. Let's start with the Dutch race, because 4th and 5th place once again smell of untapped potential. And there's one piece of data that explains everything clearly. Charles Leclerc's average lap time, excluding pit stops and safety car periods, was practically identical to those of Andrea Antonelli and Lando Norris. And keep in mind, the Monegasque spent a huge number of laps stuck behind Piastri and Russell, and he extended his stints trying to build a tire advantage. The floor upgrades proved to work, with a noticeably more stable rear end, but the starting position weighed heavily on a track where overtaking was essentially impossible. And there was one moment that changed everything. Leclerc had built a really interesting situation at the first start, finding himself with a chance to get involved at the front of the race at the restart on fresh tires. If he'd managed to join the battle with Antonelli and Norris, we'd have seen a completely different race. But a poor second start allowed Piastri to get back in front on the hard compound, destroying any hope of a strong result. And this brings up a point that's generating a lot of debate. On the double fight with Russell in the middle phase of the race, Leclerc himself said his strategy was to put pressure on his rival and force him into an early stop, creating a tire advantage for himself. But given how effective the undercut was in that race, bringing forward one of the two pit stops might actually have been the smarter call. Instead, Leclerc and the pit wall focused on delaying the stops, which forced the driver to restart 6 or 7 seconds behind his rival each time and push hard to recover the gap. A really frustrating situation. The impression is that Ferrari had a clear awareness of their significant engine deficit, to the point where without a meaningful tire advantage, any overtake on the main straight was going to be impossible regardless. On the other side of the garage, Lewis Hamilton had a strong race, with tire management at the center of his program and an attempt to run a single stop. An ambitious strategy, but one that gave him a genuine shot at the podium, thanks to his strong pace and a long safety car period just past the halfway point. The only real setback was the laps he spent behind Leclerc, where Lewis lost around 3 seconds. And Ferrari's awkwardness over team orders was plain to see. The pit wall's initial plan was to avoid giving orders and bring Leclerc in during the first lap where Hamilton was glued to his rear. But according to the Monegasque, this went against the plan already agreed with Russell, and that's why he refused to pit immediately. What followed was a discussion that ended in a compromise, a stop after 3 extra laps, which in the meantime infuriated Hamilton stuck behind. Let's be clear about this. The pit wall needs more authority and much more effective planning for these situations, handled with professionalism rather than awkwardness. And the safety car in the final 2 laps completed the picture, taking away Lewis's only real opportunity to attack Russell. Now for the biggest story. Because while Ferrari and McLaren keep pushing development relentlessly, the Brackley team still hasn't brought their second major upgrade package, and Wolff explained why without mincing words. "We're up against it with the budget cap," he said. "We can't bring big updates every 2 or 3 races. The new package will come in Malaysia." And he went further. "We don't have the money to put developments on the car. We're trying to spread our updates evenly throughout the year based on our own calculations about when we can introduce the most important ones and optimize our championship points. But we simply cannot do what we cannot do." And the number that comes out of this is striking. There will be a gap of 10 full Grands Prix between Mercedes' first and second upgrade packages. Wolff then denied that the problem comes from overspending early in the season. "I don't think so," he said. "I think we're a company with a certain size and infrastructure. We're paying a heavy price for the reliability issues that have cost us anywhere from 50 to 100 points." And here's where it gets really fascinating, because Andrea Stella isn't buying it at all. "I'd like to believe you, but I actually don't," the Italian engineer said. And I don't believe it because, thanks to the power unit regulations for 2027, all teams will have an exemption in their reporting for the cost cap. And here's the detail that slipped under the radar and explains everything. Given the changes to both power units and aerodynamics ahead of 2027, the Federation has guaranteed $3 million extra excluded from spending for both this year and next, considering that the engines will change again in 2028. At that point, more than a money issue, it becomes a question of how to divide wind tunnel hours between this season and the next. And Stella went even further. "I'm sure that having seen rivals raise their level, they'll now take advantage of the development that's certainly already happening behind the scenes. I'm convinced the car in the wind tunnel is significantly faster than the one they have on track, and that they'll want to convert some of that potential into real updates. Obviously, it would be better if they didn't, but I don't even want to think about it." And indeed, something is moving, because Malaysia will see an important development package arrive, one that was largely already designed but whose production had been frozen. The original plan was to slow development sharply before the summer break, trusting in the investments made over the winter on the engine and chassis, arriving at mid-season with enough of an advantage to manage the championship from there. Hungary and Zandvoort, however, told a very different story. And this is where Ferrari's winning strategy becomes clear. Because in Maranello, they stopped developing last year's car very early, and that freed up far more resources for the SF26. Furthermore, having an engine deficit that requires longer development timelines, it was crucial for the prancing horse to bring chassis updates with real consistency, not only to stay in the fight, but also to prevent rivals from cutting their own development short and shifting focus early toward the 2027 car. A strategy that worked perfectly. And now to the immediate future. In Maranello, durability tests on the new engine are being completed, and it's almost ready to make its debut at Monza. The Aduo 2 spec will feature a larger turbine and a new compressor, along with improvements to other auxiliary components, and a gain of at least 10 horsepower is expected. But the most important point is something else. The real focus is on improving overall efficiency and using the turbocharger in a different way. The gain isn't just the direct horsepower figure, but also in how the engine operates, how it interacts with the car, and how it allows the operating window to be expanded. The move to a larger turbo should help efficiency at high speeds, and particularly on circuits that could be problematic with the current architecture, like Mexico City. We got a preview of this in Austria, where Ferrari, even after the first update, had to run slightly on the defensive between cooling demands and conservative mapping choices. And if everything goes according to plan, the new spec will be available immediately for the customer teams as well.